Hey, you guys. Wow, what a week last week was, huh? Woo! Never ceases to amaze me. People coming for me. Well, it was tough for me from the creator perspective to get back in the saddle on gossip because, frankly, I'm a creator that gets impassioned by a topic and then I talk about it. So I was sort of being distracted by some gossip I was dragged into, some situations that I guess would fall under the gossip landscape. And so as a result of that, I was like dying to tell you guys everything, like, oh my gosh, so badly. And so it kept making me not be able to do gossip on something else. But anyway, I feel better now. I dropped a video on the Patreon a few days ago because I wanted my Patreons to hear from me first. And then I'm doing a special. You may be thinking that I'm about to say a special, like another special on Hulu or ABC or something. But no, that's not the special I'm talking about. I'm talking about that I'm going to do a special midweek episode, which I never do on Dishing Drama Dana, and I'm going to drop it for free. And I'm dropping it November 2nd, Tuesday. It'll be on all streaming platforms. And I'm going to give my opinion on what happened last week. I don't have, obviously, the Bravo, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills show to use. I don't have, quick access to Page Six or any of the other tabloids. I'm just me, little old me. So I have my little platform and I'm going to tell my side of things. And I'm going to tell you some other things on this show, which I'm excited to share. You guys have been so supportive. I see all of you. And I saw all those messages of, wow, you guys, you got to work. Let's just say that. So let's get into some gossip now. I did want to do a quick recap of some of the arguments that have come out of Dave Quinn's book that Andy Cohen allowed to be released to you guys, because it's really apparent at this point that he edited the book with an editor, but definitely had influence on what made it in and what didn't, and the story he wanted to tell. But let's just put that aside for a second and let's just talk about some of the battles that came out of Andy Cohen. Wow. I did not know that Andy Cohen was as sensitive as he comes off in this book. Did you hear the gossip about him and Carol Radziwell? Am I saying her name right? I hope so. Turns out that Andy is just so saddened because Carol Radziwell has apparently changed since the first time he met her. Geez, that must have been really tough for you, Andy, having her change so much from being on the show to now. So Carol Radziwell felt like Andy was coddling Betthenny Frankel because they had a long-standing relationship on the show, and obviously Andy must really like Betthenny Frankel because he's helped her a lot grow her brand. And, so there seems to be some sort of really legitimate friendship there. And I think Carol felt like she was swimming upriver and that she was never going to be able to get the same sort of relationship established with Andy. And therefore, she's never going to have, that great edit that Bethenny gets or those great promotions that Bethenny gets. And so, you're like, gee, I'm giving my heart and soul to this show and I'm letting you kind of make me look like crap and I'm not really getting anywhere, right? So it's frustrating when someone else seems to have an easier ride. Okay. So Andy Cohen, of course, denies this. And then add to it that I think Carol believed that she had a personal relationship with Andy. She did, I guess, say to him, never call me again. And he proudly, stated, I won't, and didn't. But to me, how good is any of these people's friendships really? I think you could toss these people aside pretty quick on all ends. There's not a lot of deep friendships happening here, and anybody who thinks they have one is wrong. Okay, so this is my favorite part of the beef. This is so funny. Okay, so Carol, I guess, posts on her social media, did you ever do something for money that you thought was against your values, but you did it anyway? And it's pretty hard to not think that she's talking about the show, obviously. What else could she be talking about? And Andy Cohen felt like, I made you. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but it's pretty much what he felt. And that over the last 6 years that she wouldn't have really a life without Andy Cohen, at least in the public eye. But is being in the public eye all that? I don't know. That's a soul-searching question. It is to Andy Cohen, but I don't know if it is for everybody. See, I don't agree with Andy Cohen on this one. I don't think Housewives was that great for her because you know what a lot of people probably don't know is that Carol had an MBA from NYU and she went to Hunter College, which a lot of really gifted people went to in New York City. Not to mention that Carol was a journalist and she worked at ABC for many years and she even wrote a book in 2005, which was on the best-selling list, all before she was on The Real Housewives of New York. I love this. Now listen. In 1991, Carol was stationed in Iraq and reported on the Scud missile attacks during the Gulf War. In 2003, during the war in Afghanistan, she spent 6 weeks in Kandahar, embedded with an infantry unit of the 101st Airborne Division. She produced segments on an ABC TV show called Profiles from the Frontline. Carol's won several awards, including 3 Emmys, one for a story she produced on landmines in Cambodia, a Peabody, and a GLAAD Award. Carol also seems like she was quite the socialite. Obviously, you guys have heard that pictures emerged with her and Ghislaine from Jeffrey Epstein's Ghislaine, and also, and she did comment on it. She said that she knew them in the early 2000s, but that they hadn't seen each other in like over 10 years, and she didn't know that Jeffrey Epstein was like into all this shenanigans. I mean, the New York socialite scene, I would imagine, I haven't been in it in a while, but it's not like, people are looking behind, in your closets in New York. People are very, how do I say it? They're so conservative, they're so reserved. Although the New York franchise of Housewives doesn't really present that, does it? When I think about it. Maybe it has changed in New York. Now, what's incredible to me is that Carol didn't get paid to do this book. I mean, how do I know that? Because they reached out to everybody for like free to, be interviewed as part of under the guise that it was going to be this book for the fans, and they would promote your social media and blah, blah, blah. So Carol, did this book out of the bottom, of her heart. And I'm actually a Carol fan. I like sort of her. She's sort of interesting to me. I wanted to have her on the show, but I don't know if she checks her Instagram. I tried to reach out to her. Some celebrities are just, they have like 1 million followers. So your little DM gets lost in the shuffle. I check all mine. But anyway, Carol didn't respond, but I really would love to chat with her, just saying, if any of you guys have an in with her. So Heather McDonald from Juicy Scoop got Carol on her show. Lucky. And Carol said something really juicy, which I'm going to share with you guys. Okay. She said, and I quote, "Right after my husband, Anthony Radziwell, died of cancer in 1999, I was in London for the holidays because I just wasn't handling things perfectly. I just wanted to get away and I didn't want to be around anyone. And I was there kind of on my own." It happens. Ghislaine and I had a very good mutual friend. So randomly, I got a phone call from Ghislaine Maxwell, who I never had heard of, and I didn't know. And she said, "Our friend Lisa told me to call you. I know a lot of people in London and I want to make sure you're okay and you have things to do." And it was very nice. It gets better. Wait. So suddenly she gets this call, and guess who it is? Prince Andrew. God, that man gets around. Okay. So Prince Andrew calls her and says, and I quote from her, this is her story, "I would like to take you to dinner and to the ballet if you would like. I would love to do that for you." Oh, so nice though. Maybe he was just doing it to be nice because her husband had passed away. But weird that he didn't know her, right? Anyway, 6 months later, back in New York, she says, "I met Ghislaine, I think at a movie screening or something like that. And then we got to be friendly for a few years yeah. And I guess Radziwell's name did appear in the Little Black Book, but so did so many people. Oh my God. Epstein's book, There's so many. I posted Epstein's book on the Patreon if you want to see who's in there. It's like ridiculous. Okay, you can spend like an hour on that. I don't know if you guys can hear this music outside, but it's an Amazon guy, and he comes into the area by my place, and he blasts his music like we all want to go dancing with him. I'm like, what kind of like training are they giving the Amazon drivers? Like, it's not happening with FedEx, okay? FedEx guy, really quiet, comes in, drops off the package. I'm just saying. It's like, what's happening over at Amazon? Jeff Bezos. He back to Andy. So Andy was really upset that Betthenny Frankel also said, like, she made a really funny joke, actually. I have to say what it was because it was really good. She said, I think we need more stories about women trashing women, or we can publish a book about it. She's so shady. Anyway, they didn't say that Andy bashed her, but the implication is that a source close to Andy said this. I know, it sounds like Andy said it, but okay, we'll just say it's a source. And they said that Andy has had it with her. Everything that she's done without him, including her podcast, has failed. Her talk show was a disaster. Her apprentice show bombed, and now she needs to use the housewives to get anyone to listen to her boring podcast. This is what the source said. The source close to Andy said this? It's kind of passive-aggressive to have a source say this, right? Don't you think? Like, if Andy really said this, like, it's kind of passive-aggressive to have it come out this way. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe, like, and look, I added a tip jar if you ever want to tip me. You could send me $5. I'm poor now, so it's perfect. Oh, by the way, I want to thank Reality Blurb for always giving me some great inspiration for my videos.